ASU takes on Mississippi State in Tempe this weekend, and it is a perfect benchmark game for Kenny Dillingham.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your shows. Stay in touch by following me on Twitter, RichieBrads36, the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Do me a favor, if you have not hit subscribe on YouTube yet, hit that subscribe button for me. We are nearing 1,000 followers at a rapid pace. When we get to that benchmark, we'll celebrate together as a channel. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers, all of you, can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV to check out all those games that are out of market. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into today's episode. We got to talk about ASU versus Mississippi State. We got to talk about the importance of this game, what this game means, not only for the season, but where you are at as a program under Kenny Dillingham. We're going to take a look at how you win this game, what you do on offense, what you do on defense, what you do from a coaching perspective, and then end of the show, what's next? What happens after this game, win or lose? Well, let's talk about what this game means to start things off. First of all, ASU has never won an SEC game before. Fun fact, if you haven't heard Kenny Dillingham talk about it all week, now you know. ASU has never won an SEC game before. Now, granted, ASU doesn't have a lot on their resume when it comes to playing SEC teams. It's not like they schedule Alabama and LSU every year. But it nonetheless, in a program that has been around since 18-something and has been in a major conference for 70 or 80 years, I can't remember when they joined the WAC way back when, you have not played an SEC team and managed to beat them. That will hopefully change this weekend. And is Mississippi State Bama? No. Are they Georgia? No. But Mississippi State is still a quality team in the SEC, and they're off to a good start. They absolutely beat down who they played last week? Eastern Kentucky 56-7, the way that they should be. They got a brand new quarterback with Blake Shapen. We'll talk about him more later, who had a 4-touchdown performance for them and racked up almost 300 total yards. He's a beast. He's a stud. They also ran for 203 yards in this game. So they're a highly efficient offense. In the defensive side of the things, 2 turnovers and a pick 6. You take that every day of the week. This is a quality matchup for ASU. This is a quality SEC team, an SEC team that should go bowling this year. And that's a perfect benchmark for you. This is a Mississippi State program that is going into year 2 of course, I can't remember their head coach's name. I'll look that up right now. But they're going into year 2 of Jeff Lebby. It's year 1? Who was their head coach last year? Man, I don't know, I guess. They're off to a 1-0 start under Jeff Lebby. He previously was an offensive coordinator for Lane Kiffin and for Brent Venables at Ole Miss and Oklahoma, respectively. They're off to a good start, especially on offense. He's a young guy at 40 years old. It's kind of a Kenny Dillingham situation, although he's not a Mississippi State alum. That's quite a difference, but you're talking about a really young offensive mind who's got a pretty impressive resume that's coming to a program and quickly turning around an offense that, frankly, wasn't good. Now, last year, it was a mess for Kenny Dillingham on offense, but you also had suspect play calling and just a ton of injuries at quarterback, on the offensive line. It was a mess. So you can kind of give him a little bit of a pass. Last week, your first game against Mississippi State, you blew up, man. You recorded, where's my total yards here? 499 total yards in this game. You passed for 241. You ran for, why can't I find it? You ran for, or you rushed for 241, excuse me, and you passed for 258. 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground, 2 passing touchdowns. Efficient. That's what you're looking for. You had a really good game out of Sam Levitt, which we talked about yesterday. If you haven't checked out that podcast, go ahead and check it out. We go through the highs and the lows of Sam Levitt, what he needs to work on, all that good stuff. Levitt still looked good. The run game, obviously elite. Offensive line played a good game. You've got several pass catchers who could end up finding really important roles for the team this year. So you're comparing them to Mississippi State, offensive-minded head coaches who are rebuilding their offenses at their respective programs. Defensively, I'm not going to lie, I can't tell you too much about Mississippi State's defense. Obviously, they had a very good start to the season this past game against Eastern Kentucky, as they were absolutely just able to shut down whatever who are they? I don't know, the Colonels. Interesting. They were able to shut down the Colonels, who had 295 yards of offense and were only able to manage a passing touchdown, which came in the second quarter. So they pitched a second half shutout. It's a good defense. They generated pressure. They got the pick 6. They did their job. ASU's defense was obviously elite against Wyoming, and they were a terrific defense last year. ASU should be ahead of where Mississippi State is, but again, I couldn't tell you. And if you are a Mississippi State fan tuning in, if you wouldn't mind letting me know about this defense, I would appreciate it. So I can do tomorrow's preview at the best potential that I can. This is a good benchmark. It's very comparable coaches here. It's comparable programs, and it's teams that have bowling expectations this year. Mississippi State more than ASU, but nonetheless, you're going to take a look at where ASU was at with this game. If you win this game, you are ahead of the curve, you are making terrific progress, and you have been just really taking a big step forward from back-to-back 3-9 seasons to starting off the year 2-0 for the first time since 2021, by the way, where ASU went 8-5. They went to a bowl game, the Las Vegas Bowl. That's not bad for a second-year program that's coming off of back-to-back 3-win seasons again. Starting a year 2-0 with 2 wins over FBS teams, a Wyoming team that won 9 games last year, a Mississippi State team that is doing really good progress, and again, they have bowling expectations. You can't ask for much more than that, than a 2-0 start to the year. That's also going to build confidence for this team moving forward. They're going to hit the road for the next 2 games. They got a short week against Texas State. Then they go to Texas Tech. This is not going to be an easy road trip for the team. After that, you are coming back home. You're going to host number 19 Kansas. You're going to host number 11 Utah. This is a tough slate that's upcoming for Arizona State. Starting the year 2-0 is the kind of confidence builder that you need to be able to go into this next 4-game stretch and have the motivation, again, have the confidence that you can win games here, that you're not going to go 0-4, that you can go 2-1, you can go 3-1, you can pull off that upset against Kansas or against Utah. You just need to be able to go out and execute in this game against Mississippi State. It's a perfect benchmark. It's very comparable programs. It would be a 2-0 start for the first time since 2021, and it's your first SEC win. We're going to go ahead and talk about how you win this game coming up on offense, on defense, and what they need to do coaching. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, but we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you can watch every regular season game Sunday afternoon out of market. So if you're a fan of a team on the East Coast, this is your chance to give out YouTube TV a try. All you need is a Google account, a current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you get an update when we post new content. I appreciate you for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. A special shout out to my everydayers. Let's go ahead and talk about how ASU can beat Mississippi State. This is going to be a team that needs to execute. They need to play as perfect as they possibly can. If they have a slip up in this game, you just need to be able to step up on the other side of the football. So if it's a big play on defense, have the offense answer. If it's a turnover by the offense, get a 3-and-out and force Mississippi State to punt or get a turnover. You need to be able to outcoach Mississippi State as well. I think that's probably the biggest key here is being able to outcoach Mississippi State. We'll talk about the coaching here in a minute. We're going to start with the offense. What you need to do to win this game. 3 things. First of all, run heavy. You did it last week. Look how great you did. They spread the football around. They got all 5 of their running backs involved. All 5 of their running backs had at least 4 carries in this game. That includes freshman Jason Brown, who was listed as the 4th running back on the step chart. Cameron Scadaboo carries the ball 11 times, 49 yards and a score. Carlos Brooks, 6 times, 47 yards and a score. Real quick, you need to get Carlos Brooks double-digit touches in this game. 6 carries and 7.8 yards per carry with a long of 15. Chunk play, chunk play, chunk play. He needs the ball double-digit times in this game. And they need to, moving forward, because first of all, he was great last year when he was healthy. But moving forward for the remainder of the year, DeCarlos Brooks needs to be a factor in this running game. This is running back 2 on this team. This is a downhill runner who can set the tone as someone who's just going to run you over. There's touchdown potential here. DeCarlos Brooks needs to be a big part of this. But the bottom line is you just need to be run heavy. 49 carries as a team last week. That does include 2 sacks. It also includes 1 carry for -1 yards from offensive lineman Keona Pete. It's a really good offense. I can't talk. It's a really good offense when it comes to running the football. You also, when it comes to passing, I want to see you establish a top target. I mentioned again yesterday on Sam Levitt's podcast. I want to see Sam Levitt begin establishing a connection with someone. I don't care if it's a wide receiver. I don't care if it's a tight end. So it can be Shimon Mateer. It can be Jordan Tyson. It can be Jake Smith. But in this game, I think that you need to start having that kind of option in the passing game that you can funnel the ball to. Jordan Tyson had 4 catches for 49 yards last week. That is more than quality. You will take that moving forward. Jake Smith, 3 catches, 47 yards. Those 2 were the only ones with more than 2 catches in this game. And outside of that, Kyson had 2 catches. Shimon Mateer had 2 catches. You were able to get the ball to 7 different receivers. You just spread it out a lot. And granted, you only had 14 completions. I just want to see, me personally, and I said this yesterday as well, this is a personal thing. I want to see a number one receiver begin to establish himself. I'm not asking for Elijah Badger to instantly appear in week 2 against Mississippi State, but I would like to see someone who can be that top option. And again, it can be a receiver, it can be a tight end, it can be Mark Aston Douglas, it can be Melcon Stovall. I just want to see an option in the passing game that's going to prove themselves to be the number one. It starts this week, hopefully by the end of the month, hopefully by the time that you finish your we'll say about mid-season. I would say by the Utah game, I would like to see a number one receiver. This is a great game to start taking a look. Sam Levitt, keep him upright. He can pass it. He's a very dynamic runner, as we saw. Hopefully he starts going down a little bit. Kenny Dillingham says he's not the best slider, so if they can just find a way to minimize the hits he takes, that's great. But when it comes to the pocket, you have got to keep him upright. ASU, for the most part, in this past game, did a pretty good job in that department. Only gave up 2 sacks. They do have some improvement to do. I think particularly at offensive tackle, where they're figuring stuff out. They got depth. You've got Josh Atkins. You got Max Ioniker. You've got Emmett Boley. They've got the depth at offensive tackle. They're trying to see who works best right now. I am the proponent of start your best 5. ASU is going to take a couple of games to figure that out with the depth that you have. It's a great problem that they're facing right now. So you just got to keep Levitt upright. I don't care who your starting 5 is. Mississippi State is a quality team who was able to generate pressure last week against Eastern Kentucky. Keep him upright. This guy can deliver strikes down the field. If ASU can take advantage in the passing game, you're going to be in a great situation. Looking at the defense, speaking of pass rush, you need to be able to get home. ASU got 3 sacks last week. I thought they should have had more, but they still got really good pressure. Clayton Smith is a beast. Elijah O'Neal is off to a good start for a guy that Locked On Sun Devils has picked to be a breakout this year. And Kavian Thunderbird was able to get home from the linebacker spot. Do not be afraid to blitz in this game. We'll talk about blitzing in a minute. I want to see the pass rush absolutely dialed up in this game. So whether it's 4 guys or 7 guys, you just need to be able to get home. And it could look like last week. You can have 3 sacks. But if you are able to make Blake Shapen uncomfortable in the pocket, force him to make errant throws, and hopefully some interceptions, that's perfect. You also need to be able to take care of this run game. Again, Mississippi State ran for 203 yards last week. They spread the ball out. Shapen led them with 44 rushing yards. He also took 1 sack for 7 yards. They gave, 2 running backs 9 carries, one of them 8 carries. They got 4 running backs involved this past week. So similar to ASU, they've got the depth to be able to throw a bunch of those guys in. You had 4.4 yards per carry, 4.9, 4.2, and 5.3 from the 4 running backs who touched the football a minimum of 3 times. Similar to ASU. So they're going to run the football in this game. You have got to be able to limit the big plays. ASU eliminated Wyoming's rushing attack last week. It was gone. It flat out was not available in this game for the Cowboys. Keep in mind, this is a Cowboys team that is pretty run heavy from their previous seasons. 32 carries for 40 yards. If you're not keeping Mississippi State under 100 yards, unless the defense is that good. And I won't count them out, but to be objective, you're probably not keeping them under 100. But if you find a way to keep them under 200, especially, or 150 or 120, if you can find a way to get that yards per carry under 4, if you can hold them out of the end zone, your chances for winning this game are going to go up drastically. Finally, you just need to play sharp against Blake Shapen. That means limiting the big plays. That means keeping him uncomfortable in the pocket with that pass rush. That means keeping him in front of you when he inevitably takes off as a runner. As far as coaching goes, Kenny Dillingham, slow the game down and maintain the cool, calm, collective aura that they had last week against Mississippi State. ASU did not commit penalties in this game. They had 4 penalties. 2 of them were delay games. They're disciplined. Meanwhile, Wyoming committed 7 penalties. They had a couple of personal foul penalties because ASU gets in their head. They play rough, they play tough, they talk that ish, but they're not gonna instigate stuff. If you are able to get under Mississippi State's skin, that's an outstanding situation for you to be in. But Kenny Dillingham needs to make sure that the guys are dialed in the same way they were dialed in against Mississippi State. So if the Bulldogs are talking ish, if they're committing some late hits or maybe they're just getting a little more aggressive, do not instigate. Do not commit those 15-yard penalties. Marcus Arroyo, keep the foot on the pedal with the run game. Attack the middle of the field. I'm not saying you need to run it 49 times in this game. I would ask for at least 25, hopefully 30 or more. Get the guys involved. Get Scattaboo, get DeCarlos Brooks, 10-plus carries. Mix it up. Get Kyson out there because he's a beast. Let Sam Levitt attack him with his legs. On the topic of Sam Levitt, last week you had really good success attacking the middle of the field. I don't know what Mississippi State's defense looks like, so they may have a different looking defense. But with the success that you had attacking the middle of the field, short and intermediate, I would like to see that again this week. Have those guys running crossers that are 15 yards deep and just hit them for those pickups. See if they can get yards after catch. But if you are able to get those chunk plays, those 10 to 15-yard completions, you're going to really control this game, especially with a run game that hopefully will be able to dominate. Finally, Brian Ward, I mentioned blitzing. That's my key here. Blitz. Blitz, 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 blitz this game. 4 guys, 5 guys, 6 guys, 7 guys. You need Blake Shapen as uncomfortable as possible for this Mississippi State offense. Get him off his rhythm, try and eliminate him as a runner, and hopefully the blitz will be able to help a good secondary play even better. And of course, trust your linebackers. Keyshawn Elliott and Cyrus Fiaseu, outstanding last week against Wyoming. They are already looking like 2 of the best players on defense. Trust them to be able to keep up that high level of play. I don't see any reason why they can't do it, especially Keyshawn Elliott, who may be the best player on this defense in 2024. There's your keys to victory on offense, on defense, and what they need to do coaching. What happens next? Well, we're going to talk about if you get a win, how that builds the rest of your season, or if you get a loss, what happens for the rest of the year. We'll talk about it in just a moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to talk to you about our friends over at LinkedIn Now. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find qualified professionals that are right for the role. That's why you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They help you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but may be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses will get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing a lot of hats. They might not have the time or the resources to hire, which is why LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make that process easier. They even launched a new feature that helps write job descriptions, making the process easier and quicker than before. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. One more time where you get those shows. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update when we post new content. Shout out especially to my everydayers who are here every day. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We are doing our game day preview from Mississippi State. Who needs to step on offense? Who needs to step up on defense? The key players in this game. Bold predictions and a final score, which, spoiler alert, is going to favor the Sun Devils. What happens after this game? Well, if you get a win, the obvious is you're 2-0. And you're 2-0 for the first time in 3 seasons. That season you went 8-5. You went to a bowl game, a quality bowl game. Las Vegas Bowl isn't terrible. This is the kind of start that really, really energizes the fan base, energizes the team, especially with it being 2 quality opponents. Wyoming won 9 games last year. That is a good non-Power 5 football team. They were picked to finish 6th in the Mountain West this year. They are more than a quality win for you. And the way you won, even more quality. Beating Mississippi State, another quality game for you. More than quality. It's an SEC team. You've never done it before. Talk about a statement against a team that is trying to take that next step forward under their head coach the same way that ASU is trying to with Kenny Dillingham. This is also placing you definitively ahead of where you were a year ago. Last year, this is a team that I've said before didn't know how to win. They were in a lot of games. They almost beat Washington. They almost beat Colorado. They almost beat Cal. They could have beat Oklahoma State. That's a 7-5 football team. The difference is they couldn't finish games. They couldn't make the big plays when they needed to make the big plays. Last week against Wyoming, they made those big plays offensively and defensively. Coaching was terrific. Marcus Arroyo was in his back. Brian Ward, one of the best defensive minds in college football. Kenny Dillingham managed a phenomenal game. This is a team that already after one game looks ahead of where they were a year ago. They won week 1 a year ago, but it was 24-21 to Southern Utah. That's not ideal. It's 2-0 against Wyoming, Mississippi State. That, obviously, you're ahead when it comes to your record from last year. But you are just so far ahead as a program at that point. You also would need a heat check. Starting the year 2-0, who is this Sun Devils team? What can they do moving forward? Can they beat Texas State? Can they beat Mississippi State? Can they beat Texas Tech? Can they start the year 4-0? You beat Mississippi State? That's a possibility. I think I saw earlier this week, ASU was now favored in 6 games. I think it was 6 for betting odds. A team that was picked to finish last in the Big 12 is now favored in 6 games this year. And it might be more. You need a heat check if you win this game. Because you could, depending on how you win, depending on the confidence level of this team. So this is a game you can win by 1 point, you can win by 30. This is still a confidence builder. The way you win will be important. It will propel this program moving forward. And you would have a legitimate start or a legitimate chance to start 4-0. If ASU loses, it depends how you lose. If you lose by 1 point or if you lose by 30. But this is bottom line. Whether you win or lose, or not win or lose, whether you lose by 1 or 30, you have failed your benchmark game. That is the bottom line. This is a great test to see where ASU is at. After thrashing Wyoming, following a 3-9 season, following back-to-back 3-9 seasons. This is your benchmark to start the year. You lose this game, you're just going to be behind the 8 ball. And again, depending on how you lose, right? If you make this a super close game, you can still have the confidence that ASU can eke out a couple more wins this year. If you're crushed, you start to question whether or not ASU is able to play up to competition. Whether or not ASU, similar to last year, is capable of winning football games. They can get dubs. It's a matter of whether or not a game gets close and you can close out and you can secure that win. You could have been 7-5 last year. Instead, you were 3-9. Hopefully, this team is ahead of that. You are also going to have those questions. Like I said just now, was your week 1 blowout over Wyoming a fluke? That's a serious conversation to have, depending on how ASU loses. ASU ran for 243 rushing yards last week. They passed for 258 yards. This is an offense that was able to do whatever they wanted. 241 rushing, by the way. My mistake. They did whatever they want on offense. They crushed it on defense. You didn't allow a touchdown until under 30 seconds in the game on a BS drive by Wyoming, by the way. Was it a fluke? Depending on how you play Mississippi State, it might be. If this is a 13-10 game, offense might have been a fluke. If it's a 31-30 game, defense might have been a fluke. If you are blown out, defense might have been a fluke and offense might not be able to perform. Depending on how you lose this game, there's going to be questions about how you played in week 1. Finally, moving forward, we talk about whether or not this team can win. We're going to talk about if they can beat quality opponents. The rest of the schedule could be FCS opponents. You'd still feel confident that ASU could get a winning record at that point. But that's not the case because ASU is playing a gauntlet this year. After Mississippi State, you're playing Texas State, Texas Tech, Kansas, Utah for your next 4 games. You could go 0-4 and no one would bat an eye. You could start the year 1-5. Nobody would be surprised based off the expectations that were placed on Arizona State going into this year. It's a possibility, and it's a scary possibility for this team. If you lose to Mississippi State, there's going to be questions about whether or not you're only capable of beating teams that are lesser than you. With no offense to Utah, or not Utah, with no offense to Wyoming, who is a quality team, you are not Arizona State talented, especially this year. Are you good enough to beat the teams that are at least your level of competition? If you can't beat Mississippi State. And again, this is all about how you lose. It truly is. If you get crushed, you're going to struggle to find 2 more wins this year. If you lose a tight game, then you are where you were last year. And ASU won 3 games last year. They were in 4 others, right? We talked about those 4 others. But they couldn't close it out. So if you can't beat Mississippi State, you have the same questions that you had a year ago. And you start to wonder whether or not ASU is going to take that step forward this year that we are predicting as Sun Devil fans that they should be able to take. That's where I'm at with Mississippi State. That's what this game means to me, and that's how you win this game. Let me know in the comments how you feel about the Mississippi State game. Are we going to win? Are we going to lose? Is it going to be a close game? Is it going to be a blowout for either side? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter. Richie Brads 36 is my @ You can hit up the podcast at LO_Sun Devils 2. Wherever you get your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you get the update when we post new content. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. And a special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Tomorrow is Friday, which means we are doing our game day preview for the Mississippi State game. Looking at offense, looking at defense, the key players, bold predictions, and a final score, which, again, spoiler alert, may or may not favor the Sun Devils. But we'll talk about it more tomorrow. I'll see you then. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.